In 2025, 20 million barrels of oil passed through the waters of the Strait of Hormuz every single day. And since the conflict that erupted in Iran this year, that flow of oil has been disrupted. It affects the cost of shipping, affects the cost of raw materials and factory operations, and so it affects the costs of importers like you. So today we're talking about how this disruption affects your suppliers and your business, including the potential for quality and compliance risks. So let's get into it. So with the rising cost of oil due to the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, we've seen that the cost of shipping, raw materials, and supplier operating costs have risen significantly. So Andy, I'd like to ask you, what kind of pressure are these rising costs putting on importers and their suppliers overseas?
Conflicts like this in Iran that are creating a disruption in the oil supply create pressures on both suppliers and importers. And one of the main areas is margin compression. At the same time, both the supplier who's producing a product and acquiring raw materials is facing increased costs, while the importer is also facing increased landing costs due to shipping. The cost of shipping is increasing and the resistance from their customers to increase prices. So both suppliers and importers are facing margin compression. And what this leads to is tension and price negotiations, delaying decisions, hoping that there's going to be a change. The supplier, the factory may delay buying incoming raw materials that are needed to hope that the price comes down, so they don't have to try to negotiate or have the discussion with their client, the importer, about pricing and potential changes in shipping dates. The importer is also delaying making a decision on issuing a PO, delaying shipping, advising the factory to postpone production, waiting for a change in pricing, hoping something will break. So pressure doesn't just raise prices, it distorts behavior.
So that's a great point there, Andy, that the situation is really distorting behavior, such as causing importers, buyers to delay their decisions to issue a PO. It's causing, a lot of tension between these importers and their customers. And of course, it puts a lot of pressure on the supplier. And so when suppliers are under a lot of pressure like this, when it comes to costs, where do things tend to slip? Because it can lead to quality issues. So are there any common quality or compliance risks that come up because of all this cost pressure?
Pressure causes things to slip. And one of the first places we see things beginning to slip is where they are hard to see. That is often in material substitutions, raw materials, components, the factory seeking to reduce their costs without advising their client, the importer, that they're substituting materials. So that is a big one. We see oftentimes labor issues as factory employees leave the workplace, the factory doesn't replace them. So now you have less workers doing the same amount of job. And so you tend to have quality issues with inconsistencies in the experience in the workforce, in production, weaker adherence to specifications, compliance shortcuts, not sending in every batch of incoming raw materials to be tested if that is a normal part of the quality process at the factory. When timelines are tight, these are often things that we see happen, is that things slip. Lack of production quality measures in place, or not adhering to the measures, the processes that were in place before. And it's not really one big failure, it's small compromises stacking up. So it's critical to maintain your quality, your factory's quality processes during these times of pressures.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. You start to see material substitutions, labor issues, and just these little small compromises that add up little by little. So in a situation like this, where you've got the cost pressure leading to more quality risks, what should importers be doing differently now to protect themselves?
In this kind of environment, with these kind of pressures that we're facing, importers need to shift from being reactive to being proactive, providing increased visibility into production, whether that's with your own teams on the ground, using a third party, to go into the factory to ensure that the factory is maintaining their processes, increasing or at least maintaining your production testing and pre-shipment testing, not decreasing any of the processes you have in place. Of course, more frequent inspections would be being proactive, but there's also a cost with that. Some of the things that you can incorporate without raising costs is tighter communication with suppliers, making sure that they understand your expectations in times of conflict that lead to pressures on both sides right now. And I mean worldwide conflict, not a conflict between the supplier and the importer. Being very clear about non negotiables around quality, compliance, substitution of materials, and that is critical. It's very important to understand that your supplier is under pressure, just like you are. So alignment in your thought, communication is critical. If you only push on price, you're increasing your own risk. The companies that navigate this well are the ones that stay engaged and treat risk management as an active process, not just checking the box. When costs rise, risk doesn't increase, it shifts. The biggest mistakes happen when buyers assume everything else will just stay the same and it's okay.
So, really, what you're saying here, Andy, is that it's about being proactive and not reactive and maintaining your processes, having tighter communication with your suppliers so that you can kind of see what they're struggling with and ensure that they don't buckle under the pressures that everyone is facing right now. So, with that in mind, thank you, Andy, for sharing those insights. And to our viewer, if you need help, if you need someone on the ground at your supplier's facility to help you conduct these inspections and manage these risks, be sure to reach out to us by connecting through our website. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. And also, be sure to like and subscribe for more about the latest trends affecting quality and compliance. So, take care.